Good afternoon, everybody. It's KB5 MIQ Big Boy. Appreciate everybody who subscribed to the channel. We was wrong. Well, I called it the 600 sub giveaway, and we was like 592 when I started. Well, I'm at 599. I appreciate that. So we're gonna draw a couple names here. Then we're gonna do part one of a video. Um, talk about types of used gear you may run into at a ham convention, sidewalk sale, stuff like that. All right, let's see what we can come up with. Got one here for the first drawing. Chris Howell in Wilmer, Alabama wants the ARRL book. Chris, you'll get it. All right, let's draw for the antenna book. All right. Michael St. Clair, Columbus, Ohio. We'll get you the antenna book. Thank y'all. I appreciate it. Just want a picture of you when you get them. Let me put them in the next video. Thank everybody who entered it, and appreciate it. Maybe my prize will get better if I ever make any money doing this, but I'm doing this out of my pocket for right now. And I apologize for this video being backwards again. It's just easier for me till I figure out another camera to use this phone again. Hey, I'm Radio Cat. All right, we're going to talk about WD5HKV made a suggestion, and I'm going to make this a two-part video. I'm going to talk about types of used gear that you may run into at a swap meet, ham convention, things like that. All right. First thing, there's a lot of people that sell surplus communications gear. A lot of these guys are getting it from contractors who work in public communications, commercial communications. That's the right word for it. You'll see all kinds of old public service radios and antennas. And I can't got his call in front of me, but from Farmersville Amateur Radio Club, Dan Majors gave me an antenna we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Somebody can take that gear and make stuff out of it. Back in the early 90s, when I first got licensed, we had an old guy that he's silent key now, but he had his own commercial communication business. He built us our repeater out of two General Electric VHF public service radios. We had two antennas. We used a 75 ohm hard line feed line we got from cable TV company. You talk about a repeater on a budget. We didn't have a duplexer. He set it up with two radios, built a little whatever board to control them, and we put up two antennas, a receive and a transmit antenna, and the repeater worked great for years and cost us very little. So there's a lot of application for this. Dan Majors, Farmersville Amateur Radio Club, I went by their sidewalk sale last month, first Saturday every month, and I'll have their info at the end of this video. Gave me a brand new Motorola Spectrum roof mount antenna that I was able to make a bracket for. There'll be a picture of it on here, and use it on my pickup. Good antennas. Now, y'all have heard me talk about MFJ stuff, and I use a lot of MFJ stuff. I've never knocked it, but I've also said that their hardware is a little on the cheaper side. Well, guess what? Motorola stuff ain't. I've mentioned that I have stripped out the set screws on MFJ antennas, adjusted them. Didn't strip this set screw out. And the stinger, stainless steel stinger, I had to use bolt cutters to trim it with. Very well made antenna. Dan, I appreciate it. I done sent you a picture of me using it, and I'm going to put it on this video. So, there's a lot of applications for used commercial gear in ham radio. Don't turn your nose up at it if you run into it. Going to talk about a lot of guys want to start out straight VHF, and that's fine. Here's something to remember, and honestly, with TYT brand, like from MTC, being as inexpensive as they are, getting a dual band mobile rig, I don't know how much of a market there is out there for used older VHF, UHF mobile rigs, but you see a lot of them. So we're going to talk a little bit about them. Generally, a good way to tell the age of a rig, it won't have a backlit display. It'll more than likely, if you see that 701 here behind me, it's got red LED display with an analog meter. And a lot of times those meters will be one of two ways. It'll be a kind of a square meter with the needle going back and forth this way, or it'll be a rectangular meter with a half round scale in there, and the needle goes like this back and forth. And that's just a characteristic of those older radios. Not knocking them, they're good radios. One thing you need to check on though before you buy an older VHF radio is make sure it's got a PL tone board in it. Because when I first got into this hobby, PL tones weren't used as widespread on repeaters as they are now. In fact, the first time we put our repeater up, we didn't have PL tone on it. So, and a lot of those rigs, even made up into the 80s, did not have PL tone boards, or if they did, it was an option. It wasn't standard equipment on them. I know Jeff has got one Kenwood Talk, it didn't have PL tone board in it, and I can't remember if that little Kenwood Mobile he had from that era had PL tone or not. So that's very important. If you don't get a PL tone board, you're not going to be able to work a repeater with it. Another thing that you'll notice on an older VHF, UHF radio, especially with just 2 meters, for instance, VHF, is that there's a lot of things that's automatically programmed in these new radios that wasn't programmed into them, like repeater offsets. More than likely, there'll be a switch on the front, and it'll have a plus, it'll be a 3-position switch. In the middle, it'll be simplex. There'll be a plus sign up and a minus sign down. And when you put a repeater frequency in there, and you have to know which the offset is, 600 up or 600 down, you have to push that switch up accordingly. Not a lot of memories in those old radios either. So something to think about. Not going to get into the big three on HF rigs till my second part of the video. I'm going to try to go in a little more in depth to that. I'm going to mention some really old brands that you still see showing up out there. And most of these are going to be all tube rigs. And with a tube rig, you need to remember this. A lot of your tube rigs like Swans, maybe Tempos, Galaxies, had built-in power supplies. You're talking a 50s and 60s, maybe early 70s vintage radio. Nothing wrong with them. I've actually always kind of wanted one of them. I've always thought they were kind of cool. But nowadays, you're probably going to have to spend some money, have it recapped. May have to be aligned, may have to have work on the transformer done in it. Now, remember, tube radios, as a rule, don't run on a straight 12-volt DC or 13.8-volt DC that these modern radios run on, because all the tubes require different voltages from the operate. You're going to see Hallicrafters, Hammerland, like I said, I mentioned Swan, Galaxy, Tempos. So that's something to think about. If you get into something like that, be prepared to probably work on it. A lot of technical advice out there for them. And if you're handy with electronics, it'd make a good project radio to do. I'm going to talk about Heathkit just a little bit, because I see a lot of Heathkit radios being split up from the power supply, hey, I'm Radio Cat, and the transceiver. I don't know why people sell them like that, because you cannot run a Heathkit without the Heathkit power supply. Because, like I said, their tube radios, even the hybrid tube radios, still had to have separate voltages for the tubes to operate on. So that's something to think about. There's a lot of this old stuff out there that's still available, and I think it's cool to operate on that stuff. Collins is another old tube radio. That used to be the Cadillac of ham radios back in the day. You still see a lot of them around. I don't see as many of them because there's a pretty big market for those, especially with collectors that like them old Collins radios. If you got a question about older gear, just talk to the guy that you're trying to buy it off of. Like I said the other deals, it's sort of like buying guns. I've been an old gun trader in my life. I talk to them, see how they say, what they say about it, and how I get a feel for it. Like I said, if you find a table full of just pile upon pile of junk that's dirty, I'd probably walk away from that. But if you find a guy that's got his rig set up there nicely, neatly, and they're fairly clean, and he seems knowledgeable, might be worth taking a chance on. All right, part two of this, I'm going to go more in depth into HF rigs, the big three, and probably talk about Heathkits a little bit more on my next video. Guys, all you two winners, I'll get your books in the mail to you tomorrow. I appreciate everybody who's entered and everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Y'all remember Main Trading Company in Paris, Texas. Especially for used gear. His used gear stuff changes every day or so. And check, a lot of his used gear has a warranty. Farmersville, out there northwest of Greenville, first Saturday every month has a little sidewalk sale at South Lake Park. Information will be on the video here. I appreciate it. We still do our 10-meter round table Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 7:30 Central Standard Time. The band's been open here lately, so you may have to look around for us. We're going to be in the novice tech portion, voice portion of 10, but we tried to go to 460 or 470 tonight. The band was open, ended up on 445. So just look around for us and hopefully check in with us. Once again, I've really enjoyed putting these out for y'all. I'm liking the comments I'm getting back on this, and we're going to keep trying to put them out. I'll probably do part two later this week on the HF rigs. It's KB5 MIQ Big Boy. Thanks for watching. 73. Adios.